Hello, listeners. Welcome to the latest edition of the Talkie Taka podcast. We have a relatively diverse panel today: two United fans, one Liverpool fan, and one Chelsea fan. That's basically the diversity we can bring to you in terms of club support. So that's fully on display here. We have Ashwin, we have RK, and we have Radhaji. Hello, boys. How have you been? We haven't talked in a while, and a lot of things have been happening around the world of football, including Bayern Munich not being top of the Bundesliga. I think we have to give Ashwin a 10-minute session where he can explain to us mortals how this has happened and why it's not a farmers league, etc., etc. But yeah, starting with Radhaji. Radhaji, what's your talkie point?
Yeah, I'm going to leave the. I think we haven't caught up in a couple of weeks, so Leverkusen Bayern was going to be mine, but Darwin Nunes stole the show for me. That goal that he scored against one on one with the keeper, 2-on-1 with the keeper, and decides to chip a keeper who's standing fully upright. Just, I mean, that guy is hard to understand. It just gets everybody's heart in their mouth all the time. But superb finish. Just nobody could have hit it better than he did. So yeah, just typical Darwin when you he does things the weird way. An amazing goal got us running in a tricky game against Brentford. He's actually in some good form, although he's not stopped missing. He's in some decent form overall. So yeah, good for him, and I hope he keeps coming up with these. So Darwin is my talking moment.
Yeah, I never thought I would say this, but the way you explained it to me, it reminded me of a Salman Khan dialogue which says, "मैं दिल में आता हूँ, समझ में नहीं आता." So exact Darwin Núñez is exactly the same thing. You can't understand him. You can just feel his expressions and his chipping of standing up keepers.
That's I don't know why that reminded me of Lord Bender. For some reason, I think that dialogue is very applicable to him also. But I think it was a good goal. Like let's give credit to Darwin for that.
Yeah, yeah, he's evolving, as Darwin said. Anyway, RK, what's your talkie point?
So a lot of good results this weekend from a United point of view. One of them was Wolves Spurs. So I think that's the Talkie Taka jinx working against Spurs. We picked up Spurs in the last pot, saying that they're going to finish top four favorites for top four. Great positivity, resilience, and all. And there you go. Spurs end up losing to Wolves. I found so my talkie moment of the week is this the Wolves second goal. It was a very old fashioned counter, especially Pedro Neto's very very high pace is my talking moment. The way that he sprints, and I think the person trying to catch up with him was also seemed pretty fast, but Neto ended up outsprinting him, cutting the ball back, and there's Joe Gomez running in at almost full pelt, and he blasts the ball in. I think that's a great very very one dimensional old fashioned counter goal, and that takes my moment of the week.
Yeah, and next is Ashwin. Ashwin, what's your talkie point?
Yeah, I think for me it has to be the non-Premier League related as is usually the case. So Bayern losing the plot versus Leverkusen initially, followed by Lazio, followed by Bochum. So I think it's not the best time to be a Bayern Munich fan. It's not the best time to be um, a Tuchel supporter also, because he has had these moments even at Chelsea, and Swaggy will probably vouch for that. I think what this has meant is that Leverkusen are deservedly at the top of the Bundesliga. And I was reading this stat. I think it was before the Leverkusen game, and everyone was like, "Oh, Leverkusen have this really good chance of winning the league." And Bayern actually have the most number of points as the second place team in the Bundesliga up till the Bayern Leverkusen game. It's not the case anymore because Bayern have lost one more game. But Bayern were, getting in the points, but they lost to Leverkusen. So it's set up a really nice next 11, 12 games where Leverkusen actually have a chance to win the Bundesliga, which Dortmund frustratingly did not do last time out.
It's okay. We don't care who slays the beast as long as the beast gets slayed. So, or the crops get farmed or whatever the correct metaphor is. My talkie point is not Premier League related. There isn't much that happened. Chelsea drew a game. Arcade feels like that should be my talkie point, but I'll refrain from that. Rangers being top of the Scottish Premiership is something which is surprising, and they're 2 points. They've got a 2 points lead over Celtic, so that's something interesting. But yeah, let's explore this Bayern thing a bit more. And Ashwin, obviously, as our resident Bundesliga expert, we want to come to you about this. But before we do, like, this is what happens: you take Kane and you put him against Coman. So Coman has never lost a league title in his career. He every season he's been the champion. Kane has never won a trophy in his career. One of the streaks was going to end. It's like Undertaker versus Undertaker 21-0.
Spurs
And
Spurs always wins or Spurs
and
always loses. Right.
and even then, if you look at it, Kane was scoring shitloads of goals. Everything was fine. What did Tuchel do? He went out and bought another Spurs player. And as soon as
Correct.
Eric Dyer enters the Bayern locker room, they've lost 3 games. They've started dropping points. Now Tuchel's job is at risk. And yeah, so homage to Ab, who's not here today. But yeah, you add too many Spurs players and the place goes to shit. Ashwin,
You
what's
know,
happening? Why is
this
this happening?
this reminds me of our Germany trip, a few years back, where we had gone for Oktoberfest, and we ended up breaking the ice with a German couple, and they were Hamburg fans, and obviously we all started bitching about Munich in Munich, and where they were saying that the whole of Germany hates them. So I can imagine how happy the rest of Germany would be feeling right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like Man United is probably the most loved and the most hated teams in England as well. So I think it comes with the fact that Bayern Munich obviously win everything there is to win domestically. This season has been a funny one because obviously with Harry Kane um, signing, everyone thought that the Bundesliga is a given. Of course, they struggled last season with Nagelsmann, and then won the title towards the very end with Tuchel coming in. But this season has been a really funny one because Sane, Coman, and Kane have otherwise been really good, and Kane has been scoring a lot of goals. But Leverkusen have just been so much better. Like they were my team of the year when we did the awards as well. Javi has really brought in something really new to that Leverkusen team. Don't forget, 2 years back they were almost on the verge of relegation. Um, so I think credit goes to Javi a lot. The organization that oh, sorry, I said Javi. I meant Javi Alonso, not Javi. Um, the organization, the field of play, the way they dictate the game, everything is just top notch, and it comes with the fact that Javi himself was such a organized player, and he could like make everything tick. In terms of Bayern, I think I still would argue they're going through this rough patch. They've lost back to back games. There are a lot of negative rumblings coming out from the Bayern camp. In fact, I think 2 days back, there were some rumors that Kane is not happy with how he's being played. Now, like all of these things come up when things are not really going your way. I still feel that Bayern would come back. Whether they can close that eight point gap, I don't know. I hope they don't, but I still feel that you know, Tuchel hasn't done as bad a job as people are saying that he has.
Leverkusen, however, Ashwin was commenting on their, how they, control the position and, how they press. I think that was very, very impressive. That was the first time I was watching Leverkusen in depth. Maybe I had seen a few highlights before, but a full game, that was the first time I've seen them, and it was very, very impressive. Like the patterns that they have building up, the movement that they have. So when one person receives the ball, there's always constant movement around him, trying to find space. So it's very easy for a player to find someone in space and try to move the ball forward. So, and they are very like a typical Spanish manager. They're pretty obsessed about controlling the ball, controlling the game, tactically, very aware. Off the ball, at least against Bayern, they weren't really pressing high, but it was like the off the ball shape was also very, very impressive. They were closing down a lot of space in midfield. Bayern were, struggling to kind of pass forward at times, and they were trying to go around. And there also they ended up running into completely blind alleys. So even though Bayern had more of the ball, it felt like completely harmless, and Bayern were just kind of waiting for them to do something stupid, get the ball, and then then they would either control the game, and they also had a very good sense of when to counter, and very, very fast players who could basically counter. So I think all in all, they have built a very good team. They have very good center backs, all of them very athletic, fast. Wing backs are all, we have seen a lot and read a lot about how Grimaldo is having an out of the world season in terms of stats. So I think he's really built a very young kind of team, very enthusiastic, and he's put some good experience in there. Also, the likes of Zaka, they bring in that experience from other clubs that they have been at. So, and of course, Alonso being great that he is. So somehow they have found that great blend. So I think Alonso all set for Liverpool then, probably the way that he's going.
Yeah. So I was just the most impressive thing about this entire game was that it was such men versus boys kind of stuff in the entire game. Bayern couldn't lay a glove on them. Whatever Bayern were doing with the ball, it was like as per design. They had it in the areas where Leverkusen was just like comfortable with them, and then they just switched the play like so effortlessly, and suddenly 2-3 passes here and they're through on goal. It was just incredible to watch. You just dismantled Bayern. It wasn't a counter-attacking performance. It wasn't like a sit back, absorb pressure, and then hit them on the break at all. It was just so controlled and dominant. That was the shocking part to me. So yeah, I mean, he's something serious. You never know in Bundesliga. There have been teams who have been leading in the midterm of the season, and Bayern have still ended up winning the league. So you never know. But I don't think I've seen a team so like dominant in a game versus Bayern Munich. So yeah, I mean, incredible game. Just really eye-opening that that a team that's not level Dortmund under Klopp or under Tuchel has really smashed Bayern. That's that significantly. So yeah, like more power to him. And yeah, I would, like I said last episode, I would be totally happy if he comes to Anfield.
Like I was just reading about Leverkusen, and the funny thing was, in Germany they are called Neverkusen. So Leverkusen are the Spurs of Germany. They have never won anything. I think the like trophy count is completely zero. So that was one funny thing I read. But talking of Bayern, I thought like okay, they lost to well beaten by Leverkusen, but I didn't expect at all what followed. I expected them to beat Lazio, and Bochum obviously should have been an easy game for them. So didn't at all expect Bayern to come fall into this kind of a slump. But as Ashwin said, that's happened with Tuchel in the past as well. So
Yeah, and the team that they're going to face next is actually Leipzig, so it's not an easy fixture by any means. Um, I think if I go back to the Lazio game because I watched parts of it, they have been pretty wasteful. They were, sorry, very wasteful in that game as well. Musiala missing a really good chance. Kane missed a few chances as well. And then was it Dio Upamecano who got the red card? He did get it over the weekend, so it's back-to-back red cards for him also. So it's yeah, things are definitely not going his way, but like you know, it can all change. It can all change very easily. But at this point, I think Leverkusen definitely favorites.
Yeah, imagine Kane moving to Bayern Munich thinking this way I'll definitely win a title. And guess who turns up to ruin his parade? It's Granit Xhaka from Arsenal. Talking of Arsenal, they had a comfortable win. I would actually say that Arsenal were the biggest winners of the weekend, not because of the margin that they beat Burnley by, but by the fact that they won comfortably. And unlike Liverpool, they didn't have any injuries to boot from the game, and City dropped points. So Arsenal looked pretty comfortable. I mean, Burnley didn't pose much of a threat. They looked set to go back to the championship, despite the way Vincent Company and his men were hyped up before the season. Like they will comfortably finish mid-table because they were so amazing in the championship, and doesn't look like things have ended up this way. So, any thoughts on Arsenal or Burnley?
11 goals without answer, that's fantastic. And like we have talked about Arsenal lacking real goal scorers in a few games this season. We talked of how I think it was November, December, where we were talking about the highest goal scorer from Arsenal is having only 7 goals or 6 goals around, and that's not enough if they want to keep competing. We were talking of Jesus not having enough, talking of Saka not being in the best form, Martinelli, but all that has changed completely in the last few games. They have kind of slowly revved into gear, and now the last couple of games has been a complete blitzkrieg. Saka, if you look at his stats count now, it's almost, I think his season tally looks something like 15 goals, 13 assists, or something like that. So what he's done in the last 7 8 games is outstanding. He's, I think it's going to be we were talking of Saka not being in the best form, but probably this is going to easily end up being his best season. So similar to
And
Saka, other people have also put on fireworks. Martinelli, Declan Rice.
yeah, and complete opposite to last season, they are absolutely peaking at the right time. Last season, of course, they started the season right on top. They were looking amazing. This season, they stayed within touching distance of the top without really looking convincing. And over the last, it's just incredible the way that they've peaked at the right time. I think they, and the best part about it is they started with that defensive solidarity, the base, where they've always looked really stable at the back. And we were all saying that attacking they're not convincing. I know that they've had a few easy games also as in the last few games, but West Ham and Liverpool were definitely not easy, and they absolutely dominated those games. One could argue that West Ham is going through a really rough patch, but Liverpool they dominated. Liverpool was also a team in form, but then smashing West Ham and Burnley the way they did, I think I was writing them off, saying that City are definitely going to be the far and out uh, um, favorites for the league. But Arsenal definitely look like they're at least keeping pace with whoever's on top. So I think uh, faltering City at the weekend, Liverpool also winning, and Arsenal just dominating. It's going to be a pretty touch and go title race for sure.
I'll hold my hand up and say that. I mean, I think it was the last episode just before the West Ham one where I said, "Oh, okay, I don't think Arsenal are in the race anymore. It's just a two-horse race," and they've proven me wrong. They seem like they're in the vicinity, at least they're in the conversation. And um, and City, despite dropping the points that they did this weekend, they still, because of their track record, they still feel like the favorites for me. That okay, regardless of what's happening at Arsenal, what's happening at Liverpool, City is a juggernaut that you cannot break. Okay, maybe there will be an odd draw here or there, but to me it still feels like okay, this is still City's to lose. It would have to take some more of these occurrences for something like this to happen. Um, we had a very good performance by Disasi where he controlled Haaland so that Haaland basically didn't really have a good game. But how many of these games will we end up having during the season where City draw a blank and end up having to rely on Rodri, just like the Champions League final, just like the reverse fixture and earlier in this season as well. So I do agree that Arsenal are in the conversation, but it still feels like the Avengers are still out for blood.
So Swag, you talked of Disasi controlling Haaland, but Haaland ended up having 1.82 xg. So
No, it
you
was
try
just
to control them, and even then they produce almost 2 xg by a single player. So that shows
there
how
was
tough it
no
is to beat
there was
City.
no control. Haaland absolutely should have had a hat trick. There's no two ways about it. There were two-headed chances, which I can't believe. The way he gets up
Didn't
for
feel
headers,
like
it's
Haaland.
literally it's scary, man. It's scary. And then there was one where they crossed it to him, and he was like, I mean, I didn't feel like Haaland was stifled. I felt like it was just Haaland's off day. That's all. His finishing was
Uh,
really, really poor,
of course,
and
of course,
it
of course,
cost
it
them.
was a, of course, it was a off day because everyone fucking triple captained Haaland over the weekend, right? So
including
he
yourself, I assume.
got the script. Fucking
That's
hell.
Of
where
course.
that's where you guys missed the trick. I triple captained him way back when he was subbed off on 45 minutes. That's what the real G's do.
But looking at Arsenal's fixture list, right? So if you look at the whatever 13 14 games that we have left, they only face Newcastle at home and Manchester City away, uh, which are like the tough games, if I can call it that. City still have to play Liverpool. They still have to play Arsenal. Liverpool have to play Man United. I mean, it's Man United
So
away. I know.
actually, I
So
was looking at the same thing, Ashwin. They've got so all three teams have got Spurs and United. So Spurs and United are going to be potential kingmakers in this. And the other interesting thing is City play both teams. So Arsenal and Liverpool, of course, are done, but City play both teams. So there's a real like exciting few fixtures coming up. I think Newcastle and Aston Villa aside, I'm keeping them aside for now. Spurs and United, I think, are tricky. United, because of generally the form that they're in, they're able to score goals. And Spurs, you never know what's going to happen. So those two, I think, are also tricky fixtures.
Yeah, I think the good thing is a lot of these away games are now become tough, so it's not easy. I think Arsenal have already gone to Villa Park and lost, but those kind of grounds are not at all easy to go. So whoever has still to go to Newcastle, still to go to Villa Park, I think those kind of places are is it's going to be pretty tough. Even Brighton at times.
I think Newcastle and Villa are proving to be very blow hot, blow cold this season. Like Villa seem to be on a downward spiral right now. Okay, they won this weekend, but it doesn't feel like they're as convincing as they were before when they actually ended up being like 1 point or 2 points from the top of the table. But yeah, I agree with Radha that this combination of Spurs and United will probably end up deciding the title the way it goes. What are your
it
thoughts
also
about Liv?
means
Sorry, go ahead.
it also means we are fucked if we have to play all these teams, right? Like, let's not if they want to like um, depend on United to win the title. Good luck to them.
Just because we were talking of strikers, talking of Haaland and Watkins. So because we missed last week's pod, I wanted to mention Haaland's finishes against Everton. That was very typical, Haaland goals. One where he just instinctively shoots from his right foot, blasts it into the net, and then the second goal is, I think, even more typical of him, where he's running in behind, and he's up against a very strong defender. At least he looks pretty strong to me, and he just brushes him off and then finishes it into the net. So Haaland is still, having his off games, but producing what Haaland does. And Watkins, interesting thing about him is he has 13 Premier League goals, but he also has 10 assists. So Watkins has developed into a completely all-round striker.
Yeah, Watkins will be cursing his luck because the moment he becomes this complete finisher and complete forward for perfect for Southgate's England, Tony comes back and starts scoring and assisting. So the easy way out is not possible yet
You know why Watkins has started scoring again?
because you took him out of your team.
Of course, yeah, that's the reason.
Okay, what are your thoughts on Liverpool? Radha, you were obviously cribbing about a lot of injuries happening, so the win came at a great cost to the team. What's happening?
Really, really bad situation. We already had a few injuries before the start of the game. Dominic Szoboszlai is out, Trent is out, Allison is out. Allison was a real shocker. The day before the match, he was announced that he's got a strain. Um, Really, really annoying thing was that Diogo Jota's like seen a pretty bad injury. There was a real worry that it was going to be one of those horrible ligament tears which will last 6-8 months. But luckily, it seems like it's going to be a 2 month kind of situation. It could have been like a proper 8 month or 6 month. Looking at what just the pictures of what happened in the match. So yeah, he's going to be out for 2 months. I think Curtis Jones, who's another player who's been on form, out for at least 2-3 weeks. I think they both of them left the stadium on crutches. Jota, especially, man, like there's no doubt about it. In Mo Salah's absence, he's the guy who's really carried this attack. He's created this really good partnership with Nunes as well, and both of them have been really playing off each other. Just look at the assist for the Nunes goal as well. I mean, the Nunes goal in itself was just obviously everybody talks about the goal, but it's a 40-50 yard aerial ball which he's watching from behind, looking back behind his neck, and then perfectly timed header right into Nunes's path for basically a tap in. That guy's so intelligent and he just wins us so many points. I think we're going to miss his characteristics. Not We have attackers. I think we have Cody Gakpo. We have obviously Mo Salah's back, and you can't underestimate the impact of that. But Jota is so unique in what he brings the team, so he's going to be a big loss. Midfield, hopefully, Sobozlai comes back in a couple of maybe in a couple of games. So hopefully we won't feel the pinch of Curtis Jones so much until he's back. But yeah, they're really adding up now. We have like 8-9 proper injuries out. So it's going to be challenging correctly when we're going to start playing the Europa League again. And I don't think we have another 7 day or 6 day gap between games till the end of the season. So yeah, it's definitely going to be a challenging one. But I have to say, after the second goal that we scored, including the second goal, it was a superb piece of play. They played amazingly. Like some of the one-touch play and some of the passing and movement, just outstanding. Of course, we conceded because I think that's the way we've been for a large part of the season. We've never looked like a team that is convincingly going to keep another team out. But attack wise, we were there for it, and a slightly tricky team, Brentford, even though they lost last week as well quite heavily. But yeah, got over the line quite well. Played superb football. Can't complain about that aspect. Just a bit worried about the injuries now.
Yeah, I think we were discussing about Alonso and the winning mentality, and of course Liverpool have that as well. And it's amazing how Liverpool have been able to cope up with all the injuries that they've got. They've had Andy Robertson injured, they've had Trent injured at some point, Salah gone on AFCON, then injured. I think Nunes was missing for a while as well. Jota now missing, and they just keep coming up with the goods, right? Like, who the fuck is Bradley? Like, I had never heard of him, and he has like such a good game. Like, not just with Brentford, like even before. Was it the Chelsea game where he scored a goal or something and he got an assist? Um, and and they're just like ballers everywhere in the team, man. Like, you have um, like Curtis Jones gets injured. Gravenberch came on for him, if I'm not wrong, and then he had a good game. He scored as well. Um, Nunes with the amazing goal that we spoke about at the very beginning. I think it's just that mentality. Whether it is enough to take them through with all the injuries, I don't know, but they're definitely going to be there until the very end. It's what I feel.
Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
interesting thing is, they have got people to step up. So probably now it's Gakpo's turn. You never know. It's maybe his turn to now step up, score a few goals for the next couple of
Yeah,
months.
and I totally forgotten about Luis Diaz actually, because last season he spent the bulk of the time injured, and obviously his father was kidnapped as well, so he had personal reasons for missing out earlier in the season. So, like, there's just people who step up, RK, like you said, and that's just a sign of a really good team.
yeah. I just one name that often gets missed. I think Joe Gomez has been absolutely incredible this season. Like you mentioned, the injuries to Robertson, Simicas also was injured, so we didn't have a left back at all in the squad. And of course, Trent got injured, and before Connor Bradley was back, so he was actually out on loan last season. He did really well. People thought of him immensely in the team. He was outstanding in preseason, then got injured. So there was a lot of hope for him at the start of the season. Then he got injured. But Joe Gomez has literally been covering right back, centre back, and left back this season, and he's been one of the most consistent players in the team. So all the names that you mentioned, Connor Bradley stepped up out of nowhere. Another name that has really stepped up is Harvey Elliott. I mean, I don't know what the guy needs to do to start a game, but he comes off the bench in so many games and just changes the game. It's incredible. So Harvey and Curtis Jones have been revelations this season. So a part of the whole midfield restructuring and all of that, the start of the season, the two of them didn't get a lot of playing time. But as time has gone on, injuries and Endo as well has really stepped up. So every single player, I think I mentioned it in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the podcast that this is actually, I think, the best Liverpool squad I've seen in my time as a Liverpool fan. Usually, when we go to those Carabao Cup and FA Cup games, we really like the step down from the in the team selection that we have is just uh, it's just a totally different team. They play a different way. Everything is disjointed. Like when you go to a Shaqiri and an Origi and Danny Ings and that kind of thing, you can really see the step down. There's no step down right now in this squad. I think all of them are contributing. They're all different, but they're all contributing at a high level. So yeah, superb squad, superb mentality. Of course, they've shown it a few times this season. There's just a little something there which I think that they're missing that Arsenal has in their absolute solidarity. You when you watch the team, you feel like they can be got at, whereas I don't get that feeling when I watch Arsenal. And I'm saying Arsenal specifically because even Man City this season look like they can be got at. Arsenal actually look like the one who's most dependable when it comes to a defensive stability point of view this season.
Rather, you were talking about all the injuries and you forgot about the injury to the second best goalkeeper after Petr Cech, uh, Alisson. He has been injured as well. Thoughts on
I
that?
mentioned it. So he's luckily we have a really good number two. I think Kelleher is one of the better number twos out there, but he's no Allison. I really thought he was going to get bullied by Brentford with their set pieces and all of that, but he pulled out two incredible saves in the game. Yeah, he's a really good keeper. I think he would have started at the cup final even if Allison was fit. He did that a couple of years ago as well. So I mean, he's good, but man, I can't. I'm counting the days until we have Ali back.
Swag almost got through this entire section, not talking about Chelsea, which is what he wanted to do, except for that one misguided comment about Disasi, which
Hey, he won the
got
man
him
of
some
the match.
attention.
Okay,
So, but Swag, I mean, why are you so shy about talking of Chelsea? Come on, they put up a good performance, almost beat City. My friend was remarking that if it hadn't been for some tactical, very defensive mindedness from Poch, you would probably deserve to kind of end up winning that match. So suddenly there's. I'm not trying to jinx or anything. Just genuinely saying that there seems to be an upturn, couple of really important results, if not performances. What's happening behind the scenes?
let
And the
me set
toughest
the
team to
record.
play against as well.
Let me set the record straight. The last time RK said Chelsea are on a roll, we lost the next two games. Okay,
Just two.
So that's like
So
4 games ago. And after that, we've had Crystal Palace and now we've had City. So we won one game out of four ever since RK said that. Okay, let me rephrase that.
Hey,
Second,
come on, Villa in the FA Cup.
हाँ ठीक है चलो in the league I mean. Then coming to the performance, we have people who have started to come back, so that has impacted the performances. We have a relatively better backline compared to what we had like a month and a half ago. For some reason, Chilwell is actually being played as a wing back and not as a winger that Poch was doing at the beginning of the season before Chilwell's injury. Caicedo and Enzo are gelling well together and they seem to be more comfortable. There was some news and rumors about Enzo potentially leaving Chelsea, that he's in the market to go to another place. Two things on that: who's going to buy out the 8.5 year contract? Second, if I don't know who needs a 110 million central midfielder and has the money for it right now in this market. Currently, everywhere you look, everyone's Kangla, so no one has the money to do that. But yeah, because of these things, Nkunku was not good over the weekend. But generally, he's proven to be useful. Nico Jackson, ever since his return from Afcon, has been better. He's taking more cleverer decisions, if I can say that. So yeah, generally things are looking upward. But as I said before we started recording, we win, we're 10th. We lose, we're 10th. We draw, we're 10th. So I don't think it's going to make a difference this season. Plus, okay, between 7th and 11th or 7th and 12th, it's like 2 or 3 points. So you could end up in a Conference League spot by the end of the season if things fall our way. But we'll see. I think it's too early to say that Chelsea have turned a corner, because that's something that keeps happening every time we win and then we lose again. So yeah.
And
No.
but I'm just happy that whenever Pep does this arrogant, pricking of opponents, and he ends up dropping some points, or his performances aren't great, it always feels good, because that was
And
so
then you
deliberate.
see
There was
and
no
then you
reason
see
to
his
say.
I don't think it's arrogant at all. It reminds me of you, RK. It's like jinxing. It's plain jinxing. He's like basically saying कि ये नहीं हो पाएगा. This is a really tough team to beat, and then sometimes it
sort
works.
of
Most
trash
of the
them.
times it works,
Yeah.
and sometimes it doesn't.
It's fair to do some jinxing when you have a shit ass team, when you have the best team in the world, when you just won the treble, and if you still feel the need to jinx, I think he's just insulting his opponents.
Okay, I think we don't need an FPL section this week, because Ashwin has been peppering the full episode with his tips about who to pick and who to avoid. But I want to talk about this shit ass team apparently, who's on a roll, who's what, fifth, sixth, and the form team of the league. Okay, you scraped past Luton, but many teams have scraped past Luton this season. Like, you scored 2 goals within the first 7 minutes, and I look at the group and it's like, oh my god, this is happening, that is happening. It almost felt like you were losing 3-0 or 4-0. What is this arrogant behavior? What is this, RK? What is this, Ashwin? Talk to us about United.
It's not good for the heart, swag. That's why all of us are so tense, nervous, and commenting on the game, because it's like a tennis or a basketball match. Ball just keeps going from one end to the other. There's nothing happening in the center of the pitch. That explains all the high heart rate and the tension. But like, good things first. So Hoylund is in an exceptional patch of form. He's kind of scored in six consecutive games. Probably needs to start taking more shots, or rather, people need to be able to present him with more chances. The number of shots he takes per game is still is quite low, even if you compare it to the Premier League average. But the xG per chance that he creates is very very high, and now he started converting those chances, and he's kind of in this run, as you would expect. He's far outperforming his xG as well. So Hoylund has been a big bonus for us. Everyone was talking about his promise, his potential. Now we are able to see that, okay, it can actually translate into actual performance, and he's helped us with the game state, right? So in most of the games, his goal has come early, very early in the game, and allowed us to, for whatever, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, allowed us to lead the game as well. So in that sense, it at least gives us something to fall back on when the chaos starts. But even though we end up scoring 1 goal, 2 goals, it doesn't really help, because we, whatever happens, we come back into this complete boxing match, slugfest, whatever you call it, where we lose all control and it becomes very chaotic. So I think that's the pain of the United fans right now. They want to see a team who's able to control the game, especially when the game state helps them. But the team is either unwilling to, or not prepared to kind of control the game. So I think we talked about it in a lot of detail yesterday after the game. But yeah, that's why you see us ranting. So
Yeah, I think, see, ultimately it comes down to luck as well, right? I think apart from the West Ham game, where I won't say we were dominant, because West Ham still had more shots on target than us. Aside from that game, every game has been so close, and like it could have gone either way. So the Luton game as well, it, like, I pinged in the group midway through the game that it felt like playing prime Barca, because they were just like playing around us, and like, we did have the chances, we did not take them. Bruno had, I think, two really good chances. Garnacho had two good chances, and I totally, want to give credit to Kaminski for making those saves. But like, as a striker, as a forward player, you need to be scoring those chances, right? And that did not happen. Um, Hoyland, I think, obviously has hit a purple patch, so that is great. The second goal that Hoyland scores, people thought it was a deflection, but if you watch it in slow motion, he actually chests the ball into the goal. So that just shows how confident he is right now. And so I think that is one positive. As far as negatives are concerned, there are many because the set piece problem, I don't think it's going anywhere. Like maybe not so much in this particular game, but in general, we haven't been really good with set pieces. The midfield is so porous, it's like walking past a water curtain, if I can call it that. Like people just pass through. It's like, Ajo, ye hamara goal hai, just score. Like it is that easy sometimes. And then, I mean, we are not the best when it comes to ending the games also. Post the 60-minute mark, our players are so tired, and Ten Hag refuses to make some substitution. I know RK and I have this bone of contention around Rashford, but I think it does come down to the manager to take him off if he's not performing well. And we have a lot of players who just refuse to track back when it matters. Rashford being one of them, Bruno at times does that as well. Scott McTominay, I don't know what he does. But there are a lot of holes in this team that needs to be filled. And that's why we feel that going forward, this is not sustainable and we'll end up losing.
Yeah, those talking of those off the ball problems. One thing that struck me, I was reading about Casemiro was in this season Premier League,
Yeah,
he's the
Casemiro.
second highest player who's been dribbled past per 90. So the top of the list is Jensen from Brentford, then it's Casemiro, then it's I think Trent Alexander-Arnold is also somewhere up there. He's been dribbled past 2.65 times every 90 minutes, but probably you can expect that because he's a wing. He's a wing back. He has wingers who are constantly trying to get past him, but Casemiro is second highest on that list this season, and that shows how isolated he sometimes gets where he needs to make lunging tackles. It also shows how past his prime he has been in almost all the games, right through the season. And Bruno is also in that list. So Bruno gets dribbled past 1.92 times per 90, so he's also somewhere in the top bracket of people who people are just running past. So it shows the kind of shape that United have off the ball. I was talking to you guys yesterday on the group and remarking that I see good patterns when we have the ball. So for me, the lack of control is not completely something which is not being coached. Like whenever we have players who put their foot down and try to pass like Dallo, or you have Kobe Mainu, or Garnacho, when people want to pass around, we see some good patterns developing. We saw it when Lisandro was there, but the problem is we have some players who are the Pareto of when you try, like see the number of times we lose the ball, 80-90% you will see Bruno, Rashford, Casemiro are the ones who keep losing the ball. So there are people who are obsessed about playing a direct style of football, and I think the problem with the manager is that he encourages that. He encourages them to play direct style of football, so we don't know when to control the game. And once we lose the ball, I think that is the part where I'm concerned about the coaching, because the shape is bad, the organization is poor, players kind of drop deep, they're not close to players, opposition players, and we end up winning the ball back only in our own box. So that's very concerning for me.
All
Yeah,
that
I
is
mean,
fine. All that is fine. Last four games, top of the league in the form table. Manchester United right up there with Arsenal, well ahead of Spurs and Aston Villa, who are the direct competition for the top four. So if there's so many problems and this is how the results are coming in, I wonder how it will be when they actually start playing well.
yeah, so I mean, on that, this is the first time after the opening game of the season that we have had a GD of +1. So that just goes to show how well we have been playing, and also we
Doesn't
have finally
matter.
outscored
Doesn't matter.
finally outscored Luton in the league.
I think the Invincibles
So
had a goal difference of plus 15 or 20, if I remember correctly. So yeah,
that is
doesn't matter that you're plus
15
one right
times
now.
more than what we have right now.
Yeah,
But
that's
anyway,
that's that's how goal differences work. You multiply them.
anyways, I just wanted to also touch base upon some of the changes that have been happening behind the scenes. I think we have spent the best part, at least I have spent the best part of last year discussing about the Glazer ownership and everything. I th- I think um, I think Ineos are definitely not being beating around the bush with this. We've seen a lot of news coming on with Dan Ashworth from Newcastle potentially being hired, Omer Barada from Man City already hired, and then the Southampton guy whose name I now forget. So it's something that we have been asking for ages to have like a proper structure in place. It will hopefully stop signings like fucking Anthony and like I don't know, like Angel de Maria and like whatever. So I'm
You're
really
basically
looking
able to
forward to
find
how
two
that.
signings from last 4 years. Imagine.
No, to be fair,
I can, I
even a
can, I can, I
signing.
can give you more. I can give you more, like if you
No,
want.
to be fair, even a signing like Casemiro, right? Like as good of a player he was and is and was last season, he's probably not the kind of guy that you would imagine like a team who's building for the future, who's just got a brand new coach. He's not the kind of guy you would expect to sign as part in the start of a new project. So that's one type of signing perhaps that, and even I'm waiting to see the proof of the pudding. Definitely want to see how it pans out. But you would imagine like the one like Ashwin mentioned. I think Anthony is a reflection of the extra responsibility and power that Ten Hag has in recruitment, which also is a flaw and a defect. And the second thing is the reactionary kind of signings when things go bad, right? Like, which is what Casemiro ended up. I mean, he solved a lot of problems, but he was a reactionary kind of signing as well. So those two things are typically what you want to avoid when you have a good structure in place. So they are good examples, I think, of the kind of signings that we shouldn't see going forward for United.
And fucking Mason Mount, give us our money back, Swagat. Like, what's with that?
Goods once
You
sold
know,
will not be taken back, particularly if they were
Especially
if
Dude,
if they're broken.
what is up with him? Where is he?
Apparently back in March, which means
Oh, he's
he's going
still
to be
injured.
back
Okay.
next season.
By the way, not hearing a lot of chat from the Chelsea boys on Kai Havertz seems to be doing some good stuff at Arsenal now, scoring some important goals, assisting. So yeah, suddenly everything's gone quiet in the whole Kai Havertz trolling.
there's a reason
Why do you think Ab
Ab
isn't here?
isn't on the show right now.
yeah, if you search Havertz on the WhatsApp group, you won't find it from up for a long, long time now. Otherwise, every Arsenal game he would come and mention his name. But Radha was talking about that winning streak and stuff. So it's not all bad with United as well. We have talked about all these youngsters coming through. I think that's a big positive. The reason why we don't play well and still end up winning is because there are quality players in there who can be clinical on their day and score goals. So we have seen that with Garnacho. We have seen that with Mainu. Hoylun. So even I don't like the way
Not
Rash is
Rashford.
going at the moment, but he's also capable of producing those at times. So I mean, that's the reason why we have been able to win like certain games. Whenever we put our foot down, we have those 15-20 minute spells where we are also able to play well. So it's not a completely it's not completely bad news. I still believe that Ten Hag has the coaching ability to turn this around and maybe make us a better team. But they need to stop harassing us and like all the heart attacks that they make us go through in a game. So I think that itself United fans will be highly having a lot of gratitude if they stop that.
I think the
Hmm.
other thing that is helping is obviously one game a week. With the way Ten Hag wants us to play, if we were in Europa or Champions League or like whatever, or any cup competition, I think we would have lost more games in the league.
Okay. Talking of cup competition, Radhaji, the final awaits Chelsea versus Liverpool, the Carling slash EFL slash whatever cup it is now, because it seems to change on a weekly basis. You do have some injuries, as you mentioned, but I don't think anyone will say I'm jinxing if I say that Liverpool are still favourites to win this. uh, win this final. It would take an out of our skin performance by Chelsea, something similar to what we did against City, like be there, stay in the game, and potentially get lucky with a goal or two. And that's the only way I see Chelsea winning this.
I think the City game is a good way for Chelsea to get into that final. It gives them the kind of belief that they can go toe to toe with a good team and potentially surprise them as well. Everybody knows that they have the players and the talent, so they can always come up with something on the day. They've not been doing so. If the last experience of playing a good big team was the Liverpool game, I think that would have put them in a pretty negative spot, because I think Liverpool were just utterly dominant that day against Chelsea. From our point of view, I think we're the Arsenal result aside, not the result, but the Arsenal performance aside, we have been playing well. We've scored a lot of goals, and we still have that attacking intent and attacking, like clinical attacking, counter attacking thing in us. And Mo Salah coming back is huge. So yeah, I think we should be confident as well, because we are playing well. And I know we have injuries, but we still have a good squad of players. Like I was saying earlier, people are stepping in and doing the job. Um, Chelsea, I think both teams will go into that final with a reasonable amount of confidence. So hopefully it's a better game than some of the other finals that we've been seeing from these two teams. I'm happy of the 4-2 that we had. Was a great game to watch. I can't do another nil-nil shitty penalty shootout thing again. So yeah, hoping it's a good game, and here's hoping for a Liverpool win. Another reason why I want a Liverpool win, by the way, just sign off a trophy nice and early so that they can plan that postseason parade. I don't care if the Carabao is the only thing that we win. If they actually get a parade kind of situation done in Klopp's last season, I would definitely think of going. So yeah, that's just get the Carabao Cup ticked off and announce the the parade as soon as you can.
Yeah. In talking of the league, Arsenal versus Newcastle seems to me to be an interesting game to look forward to. Newcastle, as we mentioned, have been blowing hot and cold, and but on their day they can turn it on. And Arsenal coming into this with in this rich vein of form. Um, Another good challenge for Arsenal's title ambitions. If they come through this unscathed, I think you would have to definitely consider them part of the race and in the thick of things, basically, because Liverpool will obviously not be playing. So at least on paper, you would see that the gap has reduced between Liverpool and Arsenal. So yeah, I think that's one of the games to look forward to.
Also, Everton, are they going to face a no manager bounce? Hodgson has resigned.
Mm. Yeah, I think this was coming. This has been rumored for some time now, because he has obviously not been happy because the team has not been performing well, and I think he was also taken ill during before the press conference. Excuse me. So, which is why the press conference actually did not take place. And apparently, they tried to get Kieran McKenna from Ipswich. They couldn't get that done. So now they're talking to Oliver Glasner. I think Ashwin might be more familiar with his work compared to us. But yeah, I think I personally feel that when Roy retired the first time, he should have just stayed retired and not put taken on this stress. Like Neil Warnock keeps retiring and unretiring every 6 months. So I think Roy should have just taken his flowers and gone home and relaxed a bit. But yeah, we'll see what Crystal Palace can come up with. All right.
Yeah,
On
Moyes also not far from the sack, so it's going to be an important weekend for West Ham too.
I I personally I disagree with these calls for Moyes to be sacked by West Ham fans. I tend to think that they're getting a bit too entitled. Like West Ham are still what, seventh, eighth, sixth, something like that, consistently in the top half. They get to play in Europe. What more do West Ham fans want? When you compare the budget that they spend compared to the big six or the big seven or whatever that number is now, I mean, anytime West Ham finish in the top half should be a happy moment for them.
Swag when you're 10th and even ninth looks great. Yeah, I think the
Yeah,
expectations are slightly different from They're from the West Ham fans. It's
compared to the
To be
Chelsea
fair,
ones.
it's not just their current position. It's if you guys remember, they were pushing fifth, right, at one stage. So it's the downward trajectory, I think, that they're on, that is causing a lot of unrest. And I think a lot West Ham fans have shown many times in the past that they are a little a little crazy, little La Liga, if I would say so. In the EPL, there are like always complaining about something or the other. But yeah, it's still there's, like I mentioned at the start of the season, there is a lot of unrest there between the manager and the sporting director, and there's like a clash of styles and things like that. He's not signed a new contract. It's not very often where you plan for the future and you have a guy whose contract is running out in 2 3 months, right? So that's another ticking time bomb there. So yeah, if they a couple of more losses, and I'm with RK, I think he's under pressure for many reasons apart from just the performance on the field and the position in the table. But Eddie Howe is another one. They're or thereabouts, right, with West Ham as well, right? So I think if West Ham are ninth, I think Newcastle are just a point or two ahead of them. So that's another one to look out for.
And Vincent Company as well. I think he's probably
I,
no,
I don't think he
don't think
gets
so.
sacked. I think they have this thing of it's a long term project, and unlike Potter, who we gave a 6.5 years contract, Burnley seemed comfortable that okay, even if we go down, this is the way we want to play. But I don't see any pragmatism from Vincent Company. But yeah, I don't see any threats over him as well. But yeah,
Chris Wilder is, I think, at risk because if I remember correctly, just got appointed, but some of the defending against Brighton. Oh my God, I can't imagine that they are really having much coaching at the moment.
yeah, and Wilder had this wild moment where he, in a press conference, apparently accused a linesman of eating a sandwich while talking to him, and he said that no Premier League manager should have to face this level of disrespect. So obviously, he's not happy where his team are headed, which is obviously the championship.
I was just checking the odds. So yeah, all the names that we talked about are there. So number one is of course David Moyes. Vincent Company is next. Wilder is next. Eddie Howe is Before Eddie Howe comes up. There's one more name, quite surprising. Pochettino.
Hmm. Comes with
Interesting.
the turf, I guess. I mean, as long as you're employed by Chelsea and your name is not Emma Hayes, you're always up for up for the chopping block, I guess. Yeah, we'll see who is the next domino to fall after Roy Hodgson. But for the time being, I think we'll close this episode here, listeners. And when we see each other next time, Radhaji or me, one of us would be really happy. We'll see who that one is. On that note, bye bye.